So Timo,
Yes.
Pipedrive has been on stage actually at NOAH for last 2 years. So maybe we could kick off with you sharing a little bit of what's the exciting stuff that happened since. What are the exciting highlights of the last 12 months for Pipedrive?
Sure, a few things. One is definitely based on our ability to grow around the world, and we've gone past 50,000 customer mark, which is always amazing when you think of when you started and compare it to that 0. And then we raised the Series B, Atomico being the leading investor, so that was really good. End of last year, beginning of this. And I also mentioned that we opened an office in Lisbon earlier this year, a good step forward in terms of making sure that we can serve our global customer base, and yeah, quite a few things.
Good. And obviously at Atomico, we are very happy to be partnering with you guys on the Series B. And I know there's a lot of founders and investors in the room, so it may be interesting to get kind of your debrief on what were your learnings about the fundraising process. What would you do differently, or how would you recommend people to do?
Yeah, so that is an interesting area because investors, I always kind of think of investors as they have really one goal, which is you have a line in your Excel or anywhere in a spreadsheet, and you buy shares and then you sell shares and you need to grow, right? So whatever you do for them, you are just a line in the book of theirs. And the question that we always asked was, what do we want from an investor, and can we get it, and which sort of investors we would actually need to seriously talk to. And I think the only way that you can do it is when you time your funding processes so that you don't need that money so badly that you have to forget about what you actually are after. And sometimes during the history we've been able to do that, sometimes we haven't. With the last round, we definitely made sure that we can look at investors in a sober way. And when we asked that question, then there weren't too many investors that actually passed that filter for us. And the filter was, for us, because of what we do, whether we can find an investor who helps us continue the global growth, whether we have an investor who is comfortable doing that, whether they have a long-term perspective, because we know what we're building, while it might be a simple product ambition, it has to be built that it can serve, throughout the world. And also whether that investor has a long-term perspective in what we do. With Bessemer as our Series A lead investor, I think we got that. I think with Atomico, we wanted to take a step further in terms of global expansion, and I think we've been doing a good job of that.
And you mentioned global growth and global expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always found it fascinating that compared to a lot of SaaS products out there, Pipedrive is really like a global tool. It's being used in a lot of different countries. It's not only like a Europe and US kind of play. Do you have any thoughts about kind of the continued trajectory of the global expansion, and any kind of feelings about where you're going to go with that?
Sure. First of all, I think the reason that we have this global approach is that we came out of Estonia. Estonia is a very small market, as some of you might know, but it's a population of 1.3 million, roughly. Can't be even considered a market by some people, I think, almost like a segment. And we knew that if we wanted to build a product in a SaaS world, then it would be very difficult for us to make it locally successful and then expand. Yeah. Most companies in Estonia cannot do that. It's, let's be good in Estonia and then expand to Latvia, which is another small market.
Is that the next thing always?
Yeah, kind of. Or Finland, if you're more ambitious. But we had this crazy thought that we should be able to serve salespeople anywhere, whether they're in Peru, Australia, US. So we didn't have a strong home market, and we knew that global market had to be our home. And that's why we did things which were quite crazy to begin with, but I think they've led to the point where we are right now. I mean, we didn't start with a sales team, we didn't spend in marketing, we only thought that product should be priced right, it should be self-serve. All the roadblocks are removed, and hopefully we can do some word-of-mouth sort of push there from our side in terms of marketing, and that's been going pretty well. So, for example, a few markets, South America, Brazil mainly. In 2011, our idea of how to be global was that people over there, they don't use English as their first language, so obviously we had to localize the product, but also making sure that when everything else happens in this world, because it's a software as a service, that also the customer support speaks the same language. All the materials, all the articles also are in Brazilian Portuguese. And that's an effort which you don't normally have or put in when you have a stronger market that speaks the same language. And that's what we did, and we continue our efforts there. Right now, obviously, the bigger topic is how you can help customers get on board when the banks normally don't approve the cards that they have.
I guess localization is much more than just the language, right?
Exactly. So you have payment methods and everything. So that's one area where we've been trying to make a move so that all these blocks are removed. And going forward, Asia also, you have some top economies in Japan and China and then Korea, and they don't have English as their first language. So localization there includes some of the things that I mentioned, but also because of a strong culture difference as well, I'd say. We are in a process of learning and exploring how we can go to market there. And I think that's where partnering up with Atomico has been also good.
Yeah. How do you feel that kind of global needs of the business influence the choice of investor?
So far it's been good to see that we've been able to take advantage of what I think Atomico as a company has in place, which is global ambition, but local presence in countries like Brazil, Japan, China. And for us, it's, you don't have, when you're in Europe, you don't necessarily have really good contacts somewhere in Brazil or somewhere in Japan. And thanks to people like Shin or Carlos in Brazil, Shin in Japan, we've been able to go through the different topics really quickly about what it is that we don't know, what it is that we need to be good at. So I think that's how the partnership should be, both ambitious about the same thing, and then you do the things.
Yeah. In addition to kind of like geographic expansion, like are there some like functional areas that you felt there's been a good fit with us?
Yeah, I mean, and that's also something that I really liked in what I was seeing, what Nicholas has put together as a VC firm, and I think I'm quite particular about VC firms and how they normally work, and I really like the fact that Nicholas, maybe because his own background in entrepreneurship, has built this company to be more like a company to me, where you have a clear understanding of how you could help, and then functional areas like HR or just growth and strategy over there. HR-wise, just to have the connections of picking the right professionals who can help you search for the talent. Otherwise, you'd be learning the markets for so long. Again, like how do you know people in UK, or how do you know people in Lisbon? But we've been able to kick these things off really nicely and quickly, regardless of where we are originally from or where the offices are currently.
In the intro, Marco mentioned Pipedrive as a product that grows globally without opening offices. But on the other hand, you actually have been opening a few offices recently. So you guys opened in Lisbon?
Yes, we opened in Lisbon in a few months ago. I'm actually started the whole work already earlier, pretty much like beginning of the year. We sort of put our foot on the ground. And we have right now about 20 people that we've been able to hire. And our goal there is to look at engineering people and support people mostly. And if somebody asks, like, where do you have an office and why you have it, I think it's personal. You need to understand what you want. So we wanted ability to grow in our engineering staff. And Estonia is a very small sort of pool of engineers. We've been able to get quite a few good ones, and realized that we need to grow at the same pace. So we checked different countries of the Europe and found that what we needed in terms of functions, really good fit there, very good language skills, which means that not only Portuguese, and also I think the sort of like the attitude towards work is very, very much what we want to see and like. And
it's also warmer than Estonia.
Yeah. So much more sort of type of loyalty that you get compared to Silicon Valley, for example.
Yeah. I mean, if you look back like at the last 5 years of Pipedrive, I mean, the company has come such a long way. But how do you think about the future? Like, where do you see the company yourself in 5 years?
So we do think that, first of all, if we rewind a few years back, the role of salesperson in a world of CRMs has been underserved, and I'm really good to see that has been getting better, and we want to do a good job there to make sure that salesperson can use the tool which is helping them sell, rather than they are just pieces in this big puzzle, and don't have the user interface that is been geared or designed for them. And so that is one, but at the same time we want to make sure that small businesses, regardless of where they are, that they can take care of their complex sales processes in a very robust way, so that they don't have to hire consultants, IT people. They can get things up and running quickly. And not only the core of this, which is the process of generating new business, but also the different needs there in terms of the whole platform of sales. Our ambition is to make that global and make that self-serve, which we do think is a pretty good challenge. But we like our chances, and that's what we're trying to do.
You're going to promise that in 5 years you're not going to need a consultant to set up Pipedrive. It's going to be as easy as it is today.
Yes, not only that, but also that if you need that all hooked up to your invoicing system, regardless of where you are, or the way you generate leads, then that has to be seamless as well. Yeah. Or otherwise we've failed.
Yeah. Good. Well, thanks, Timo, for taking the time. I mean, it's exciting to hear about the journey, and exciting to be partnering with you to see how the next 5 years.
Thanks, and thank you everybody for listening and having us.
Thank you.